Who are the best players in the NFL today? What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL reaction video. And in this video, I react to Nick Wright's top 10 NFL players entering the 2024 NFL season. Thanks to Ultra, who said, Mitch, it's another Nick Wright video. You have to react. His top 10 players in the NFL. And of course, Nick Wright is absolutely irate. He can't believe that Patrick Mahomes was not the #1 player on the NFL Top 100. This is Mahomes' boy. I'm sure he's going to correct that, and Nick is going to provide a top 10 that he believes is accurate. But my question is, will he shine on the bottom line? And will Nick Wright be Nick Right or Nick Wrong? Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments your opinion on the top 10 NFL players. I know everybody has a different top 10, so let me know yours in the comment section below. And let's check out who belongs in Nick Wright's top 10 players in the NFL. Let's go, Nick. Let's go. What do you got for me, Nick? Nick makes a list.
First of all, we are doing this because the NFL Top 100 was such a travesty. It inspired List Week.
A travesty. He brought it up. I told you he was going to bring it up, bro. I told you right away. He hit it right off the bat. Of course he did.
It's also why I took on the burden of being America's official list maker. Yeah. And so
America's official list maker, huh? I don't think any NFL channel makes more lists than me, bro. I don't think any NFL channel ranks more things than me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. You guys can be the judge. I'm not America's list maker. I'm not American. But maybe I'm like NFL YouTube's official list maker. I don't know. I'm putting my name in the hat. You guys can vote.
I figured I would...
Heavy as the head.
Exactly. It would culminate with me producing the accurate top 10. One other point.
The accurate top 10. Okay.
Obviously, if it were most important players in the league, 9 of the top 10 would be quarterbacks. Because
the most important players in the league, he's saying 9 of 10 would be quarterbacks. That's probably accurate. That being said, though, that's not how the NFL Top 100 works. And I think what he's getting to is that's not how his list works either.
The disproportionate impact of that position. This is not that. So it's somewhat position agnostic when we are doing the 10 best players in the league.
So, position value does not matter. Just to explain that to you. Top 10 players in the NFL. That means a kicker and a quarterback mean the same. Or at least, let's remove kickers. Running backs and quarterbacks should be weighted on the same scale.
To give you an idea of how hard it is to make it, can we show you the 10 guys who just missed? Oh. These would be guys in no...
Interesting. So 10 guys that just missed. Kyle Hamilton, safety of the Baltimore Ravens, I think is the best safety in the NFL. I had him as the second best defensive back in the NFL to Sauce Gardner, who is, in my opinion, the best shutdown corner in the NFL. Those guys would maybe or maybe not be in my top 10, but they would certainly be in my top 20. So I agree with that. Fred Warner being an elite linebacker, I think belongs around the top 20, and I'm glad he's not in the top 10. I didn't think he was for sure the best linebacker in football last year. I think Roquan Smith has a very strong argument that he is a better linebacker than Fred Warner. I would also say that Fred Warner, I didn't think he had his best year. He was still very good, but he's still top 20. There's no doubt. Micah Parsons, interesting enough, did not make the list. That's interesting to me. Parsons, I think, could be in some people's top 10s, and I'd understand it. He's versatile. He's a great pass rusher. He's one of the best pure pass rushers in football. Max Crosby is one of the most well-rounded players at his position in the NFL. Arguably the best run-stopping edge in football. Penei Sewell being the best right tackle in the NFL, him being in the top 20 but not in the top 10, that makes sense. Bijan Robinson is kind of surprisingly in this just missed top 10. Like, I wouldn't even have him that high. Maybe if we're projecting forward, you could argue that, but I don't think you can really put him there right now, in my opinion. CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase are both excellent players. Chase, I think in any given season could be a top 10 player in the NFL. It wouldn't shock me. CeeDee Lamb, I think you could make an argument. Last year, he was a top 10 player in the NFL, and I wouldn't really argue against that. But I would put both of them in the top 25, probably Lamb in the top 20, Chase maybe just outside the top 20, but somewhere around that range. The only one I strongly disagree with here is Josh Allen. Josh Allen's definitely a top 10 player in the NFL. I know that Nick Wright isn't the biggest fan. I know that he has a narrative around Josh because he's a Mahomes fanboy. But there's even Mahomes fans in my comments that will admit that Josh Allen's a top 5 player and maybe even second best in the NFL. And I think they understand where I'm coming from, right? I've said it many times, but he led the NFL in total yards, total touchdowns, and he also set a record with 15 rushing touchdowns last year. To not put him in the conversation of top 10 is egregious, regardless of position value or no position value, considering without Josh Allen, if you swap Josh Allen for Gardner Minshew, the Bills would probably pick in the top 3 in the NFL draft. And I don't know how many teams you could say that about playoff teams. I think Allen, especially last year, really carried his team. So to me, that's the only one that really hurts me. I think Max Crosby and Micah Parsons, it's interesting to see that both of them are not in the top 10. I will say that. I think most people would have at least one of them in the top 10.
Order 11 through 20. These are great players. You have, Bijan Robinson, by the way, shout out to him for almost making the top 10. Penei Sewell, you guys can see all of them. Josh Allen.
Bijan Robinson is top 20?
I think he's second best running back in football. That's
what I said, right? Like, Bijan Robinson to me, not almost top 10 based on last year, based on just his rookie season alone. Based on projection, overall maybe talent, you could argue he's like top 30, right? But, he has to do something more impressive than last year to make an argument he's top 20. I like that they brought that up.
To give you a sneak preview of someone who's in the top 10. Now we go to the top 10. Number 10, the 10th.
He did have him as the second best running back, though, Bijan Robinson. Okay, so at number 10, Tyreek Hill.
Best player in the league, Tyreek Hill.
Whoa.
The 10th best player in the league. Back-to-back years, he's been almost identical. He had 170 targets and then 171 targets. He had 119 catches and then 119 catches. Since going to Tua, he's averaged 100 yards per game or more in each of those 2 seasons. He is, in my opinion, a top 2 receiver and a top 10 player and an.
Tyreek Hill is way too low. There is no way that Tyreek Hill is not a top 5 player in the NFL. Period. There are not 9 players that change an NFL game more and more frequently and more consistently than Tyreek Hill. And you bring up the stats, he's been the best receiver in football the last 2 years combined. He was the best receiver last year, and he was probably number 1B the year before to Justin Jefferson, right? So Tyreek, most explosive receiver in football, human glitch, great returner, if you want to include that into the conversation, can take a handoff, can catch the ball deep, can catch the ball short, he has made Tua what Tua is. Like, before Tyreek and McDaniel, but before Tyreek, Tua was not considered anywhere close to a top 15, top 10 quarterback conversation. To me, he's the most valuable player on a playoff team. He's a top 3 player, top 4 player in the NFL. Top 5 at minimum, depending on your preference. To me, Tyreek Hill, too low at 10.
Absolutely.
He was number 1 voted by the players. You may not think he's number 1, but he's not far off.
Game breaker. He's the 10th best player in the sport.
Are we allowed to interrupt here?
Sure, do whatever you want.
He was number 1. And
he's number 1 where?
The NFL
on that Fugazi list? Who cares?
And then he started to tweet us and
I don't know.
and I came to your defense.
Again,
Exactly. I mean, the players did vote him 1 based on last year. 10?
giving him respect. I haven't had a Jamar Chase. I haven't had a CeeDee Lamb.
He's better than both those players. Greg Jennings hasn't said a word yet. He's the wide receiver.
I'm not taking everyone on this list. But what's gosh darn it? What's 53 times 32? It's like 1,750?
No,
1,750 guys. Check it out. I bet it's close. It's like 1,700 plus players in the league. I have him 10. Second in his position.
1696.
Number 9. Thank you.
Wow.
TJ Watt. In the last 4 years, the Pittsburgh
TJ Watt's too low too, in my opinion. I think TJ Watt's the best edge player in the NFL. I would argue he's the best defensive player in the NFL. I think for defensive players, in terms of the value they bring their team, the amount they change the game, the versatility in their skill set to rush the quarterback, defend the run, drop in coverage, intercept Matt Stafford, TJ Watt is a total stud. Great athlete. I bet the guy could play tight end. Like, TJ Watt to me, in terms of football players, he's top 5 or 6 on any given season. He could be number 1 in a season. He can be number 2 or 3 in a season. He just had, 20 sacks? He led the NFL in sacks again. He's better than 9. He's better than 9. He's 100% better than 9. Same as Tyreek Hill. He's 100% better than 10.
Steelers are 39-19-1 when he plays.
Exactly.
They are 1-10 when he doesn't.
Exactly.
I'm not a quarterback wins guy, so I'm certainly not an edge rusher wins guy, but that is compelling.
Something.
And
He's not a quarterback wins guy, but he's Patrick Mahomes.
his ability to impact the game and affect the quarterback through traditional stats as far as sacks and all of that, but then also the more, I don't want to say advanced stats, but pressures and things like that. He changes.
That's advanced stats.
The way the Steelers run. He's the 9th best player in football. Number 8.
He's better than 9.
Chris Jones. He is now.
See, I love Chris Jones. I've loved Chris Jones for years, and I've been like Chris Jones stan at times. Like, had him way higher than other people before it was cool. Chris Jones not better than TJ Watt. He's not better than TJ Watt. Chris Jones was like borderline pathetic against the run for like a majority of last year. And some of that has to do with effort. Chris Jones is a great player. Chris Jones is the best player at his position. Chris Jones is a great pass rusher. But his inconsistencies in one facet of the game cannot put him above TJ Watt. It just can't. It just can't. I'm sorry. He's good. He's very good. He's top 10. It's fine. He's not better than Tyreek Hill.
Now that Aaron Donald is gone, the consensus best D tackle in football, he has found a way in each of the past 2 years to play his absolute best football in the absolute biggest moments. He changes the math on how you have to block the Chiefs' edges, because a lot of teams you have to double the edge. For the Chiefs, you must double him, and then on big passing downs, they put him out on the edge, and he affects the game. Chris Jones comes in number 8. His teammate, Travis Kelce, comes in number 7.
I don't hate Travis Kelce in the top 10. There's no way he's better than Tyreek Hill. There's no way he's better than TJ Watt. Like, Travis Kelce didn't even have 1,000 yards last year in the regular season. He had an amazing postseason. Amazing. But there's no doubt, even Chiefs fans would admit he's slowing down. He's not the same guy he was a couple of years ago. Like, great player. I don't know how you could compare him based on last year and say he was better than Tyreek or TJ Watt. I think you can make an argument Chris Jones better than him. I think like he could be 10, but 7's too high. I know he was really good in the playoffs, but man, come on, bro.
In the last 5 years, when the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls, in those
he wasn't even the best tight end in the league during the regular season.
Playoff runs, he averages 92 yards per game. He has 17 touchdowns in 16 playoff games, and he catches 84% of the balls thrown his way.
Wow.
He is number 1 in the NFL all-time list in playoff yards per game, in playoff catches, and he is number 2 on the all-time list in playoff touchdowns and playoff yards. That's not amongst tight ends, that's amongst all players of any position. One more playoff run, he'll be number 1 across the board. And last year, in the final 3 games of the postseason, he caught.
Makes me wonder, how much longer is Kelsey going to play? 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons at the most? If he has another run to, let's say, the Super Bowl, and win or lose, he puts up individual statistics that allow him to be first in yards all time, whatever, is that enough for him to retire? Because he's getting up there, and last year he went through it. So I do wonder how much longer. His brother's also retired, which probably does play a role in some way.
Caught 93% of the balls thrown his way. He's the 7th best player in the league. Number 6, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, like, there are not 5 football players better than Christian McCaffrey. It's just not. There's just not 5 better players than Christian McCaffrey. I think you could make an argument that for each position in football, Christian McCaffrey is the most flawless player at his position out of all players. And think about what running backs have to do, right? Like, they do more than pass the ball. Like, especially now, and what he does. Like, McCaffrey has great vision, great quickness, great feet, great burst. I wouldn't say he's the fastest, but he is fast. He had numerous long running touchdowns. He's a great route runner, the best at his position. He's got excellent hands. He pass blocks. He's tough in between the tackles. He's quick outside the tackles. There's really nothing that McCaffrey does in his game that is not superb. So for that fact alone, he's a top 4 player in the NFL. It's hard to wrap your head around being a running back and being top 3 or 4. But to me, with McCaffrey, it's easy because there's just nothing that guy does for the best offense in the league, which, by the way, became the best offense when he arrived. There's nothing that he does that is not amazing. So for me, like, he's at least top 5. Like, 6 just feels weird for him. He's at least in the top 5. I would probably say top 3 or 4. That's just my opinion, though.
It's the best 5-game stretch of Jimmy Garoppolo's career. The 5 games he played with Christian McCaffrey. Since he's been in San opinion, I think he's elevated Brock Purdy to MVP contender. He is in the Super Bowl, 80 yards.
I would also make an argument that he is probably the only running back in the NFL right now that could win an MVP. Him and maybe we'll see with Bijan, we'll see. But even like Derrick Henry never won an MVP. And he's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Like, the other best running backs in the league, whoever you may deem that as, Breece Hall, whoever, I don't think they have that argument. Like, I think the only running back in the league that you would actually think could be a favorite to win an MVP is Christian McCaffrey. That speaks volumes, man. In this NFL,
yards rushing, 80 yards receiving. He is a do-it-all back who is the most valuable weapon out of the backfield in the NFL. He's number 6. Number 5, the most disrespected man on the NFL top 100, Joe Burrow. He wasn't in the top 30 of the NFL top 100.
He was very disrespected on that list. I'm a little surprised that Nick Wright, I don't know where he stands on Joe Burrow. I guess he has some level of respect for him. I think Burrow on average is a top 10 player in the NFL. But just based on the injuries, it's hard to put him in the top 5. I don't disagree. I really don't. I think when Burrow's playing at his best, there's few that are better than him. I think from an all-around collective perspective in terms of what you're looking for at quarterback when you're thinking about quick decision-making, when you're thinking about accuracy, when you're thinking about big game performance, when you're thinking about who you would trust with the ball in their hands at the end of a game, when you're thinking about leadership, when you're thinking about all these things. I think that Joe Burrow is arguably the best pure passer in the NFL. So I think that you could put him in the top 10. I just think it's hard because of last year. Like, he didn't play well. He was hurt. He was coming back. You know, he had that great game against the Niners and stuff, but it was just a tough year for him last year. So we'll see how this year goes, but you could make an argument that he's top 10, top 5. It's just, I think, you know, based on how Tyreek, McCaffrey especially, those two guys played last year, it's hard for me to put Burrow ahead of them.
When he's healthy, they win. When he's healthy, he puts up numbers, he distributes the ball, they play, despite the fact that they have gotten off to slow starts, they find a way to win road playoff games when need be. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, is the second best quarterback in the league, bar none, and he's a top 5 player. Number 4, the best defensive player in football, Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett.
100 career games, Greg. In those 100 career games, 88 sacks, 94 tackles for loss, 17 forced fumbles, 172 quarterback hits, 100.
Hard to argue with Myles Garrett because he's the defensive player of the year. So I can understand why someone would have him in the top 5. I just personally view TJ Watt as a better player. But I would have Myles Garrett as my second best defensive player in the league. And I'd probably have Chris Jones third. But that's just my opinion, again. I would say that out of this list, I think McCaffrey and Tyreek are better players than Myles Garrett. That's, again, my opinion. And I think TJ's a better player. So I'd have Garrett in this bottom row. And I'd probably have Joe Burrow in this bottom row just because of the injuries.
173 if you include me conked Mason with the helmet. He is 2 or 3 massive impact plays per game, double teamed every snap of his career basically. It doesn't matter. Number 3, the best receiver in the league, Justin Jefferson. 99 yards per game.
Again, Justin Jefferson sort of had a Joe Burrow-like year where he was hurt, stuff like that, but he was still amazing when he played. He was second in yards per game, but again, second. Tyreek Hill was first. So even like the best statistic you could take from Justin Jefferson, he was still behind Tyreek Hill. So to me, Jefferson top 10. I don't think he's as explosive or changes games or makes defenses fear him as much as Tyreek, as good as Jefferson is. Jefferson, I think top 10's fine, but third is too high. Maybe based on last year, but not this past season.
For his career, a touchdown every other game for his career. That is including, obviously, his rookie season. So you would imagine those numbers will only go up in the meantime. While last year was the first year he had to deal with bad quarterback play, he's never had the benefit of truly elite quarterback play.
Who's 2-1 is my question. So we're missing 3 players that come to mind: Lamar, Trent Williams, and Patrick Mahomes. I assume Mahomes is first. Number 2, I kind of feel like he's going to go with Trent Williams, to be honest. Is he going to fully disrespect Lamar? Because Lamar was not even in his top 20.
Doesn't matter. If people going to believe Sam Darnold's going to have
I was just assuming Lamar would be in his top 10. But I've never really heard him or heard him talk about Lamar. So I don't know.
a great year or a good year, it's going to be because of him. Now to number 2. The second best player in football, Trent Williams. 11 straight Pro Bowls.
11 straight Pro Bowls is pretty crazy. He's definitely top 10.
3 straight first-team All-Pros.
He's probably top 5.
As automatic
2, though?
as the tush push was last year, you know what was just as automatic on 3rd and 2?
So he didn't have Lamar in the top 20. Lamar just won an MVP, bro. He didn't have Lamar Jackson in the top 20?
Just run left. Run left behind Trent Williams with Christian McCaffrey. Kyle Shanahan stopped doing that thing where, Greg, remember when he put him in motion and let him go crush somebody? And I believe to this day that's because Goodell put in a phone call. Like, it's dangerous, guys. You can't have Trent Williams out here on the move. And obviously at number 1, the best player in the league, the best player any of us have ever seen, the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion.
Tom Brady's retired. Oh, that's Mahomes. Sorry. I thought he said the best player I've ever seen. That's not Patrick Mahomes.
Two-time defending Super Bowl MVP, three-time Super Bowl champion, whose worst year of his career is 12 wins and an AFC Championship game lost in overtime. Patrick.
I don't disagree with Mahomes. Trent Williams, I love him. Probably a little too high, gonna be honest. But no Lamar in the top 10 is the biggest takeaway. That's my biggest takeaway. No Lamar. We had Allen at 11, or like honorable mention. I assume he was 11. I don't know, though. Joe Burrow at 5 was a little shocking. Tyreek at 10 was also pretty jarring. 3 Chiefs in the top 10. 3 Chiefs in the top 10. 2 Niners in the top 10. But Mahomes is decisively the best player in the league, although he has Kelsey and Jones in the top 10. Just saying. But I think, yeah, like, here again, the argument. Top 100 based on last year. Patrick Mahomes probably wasn't the best player playing last year. At least, especially during the regular season, he probably wasn't even top 10. But when you go and you win the Super Bowl and you're clutch in the playoffs, that changes everything. I would also say that on average, if you're drafting all the players in the NFL, Mahomes is the best player in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. So I don't know how he necessarily judged it. I think it was more so like, okay, best players overall in the NFL. So that makes sense. I'm just saying for the NFL top 100 purposes, there was a reason Tyreek was first and Mahomes was 4 and Lamar was second, because Lamar won MVP. Tyreek's a monster. And a lot of people thought he should have won MVP. If he wasn't a receiver, he might have won MVP. You know, McCaffrey, third, that makes sense to me. You know, 23 touchdowns, best running back in the league. Like I've said, Myles Garrett up there. He was Defensive Player of the Year. Like, honestly, the NFL Top 100 based on last year did make some sense. I know a lot of people hated it, but it'll be interesting to see how I grade this, because I'm definitely going to have some fights in my top 10. Top 10's really tough. Really tough. So, yeah. That's it, guys, but that was interesting. You guys let me know what you think about Nick Wright's top 10 players in the NFL. Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. It's Mitch of The Bottom Line View. Peace.